Good evening. Hope you had a productive Saturday in the Lord. Let me ask you this. Are you feeling at peace right now as you're getting older? I went to a memorial service earlier today, and the person who eulogized my previous boss was like, listen, 40 is not the new 20, and 50 is not the new 30, and 60 is not the new 40. Do not be fooled. All of us have these temporary tents that will collapse, and we are moving toward that day where we transition. We cannot be in denial about this. It was a beautiful service, but it was very sobering. And what I got out of that service most of all, not only because the word of God was so powerful and the music was beautiful, and how my previous boss impacted so many lives. I tell you, I've never seen so many men in church. Yeah, he was part of a fraternity. Hundreds and hundreds of men, just all in their suits and their colors, and did their songs and all that. But something that my boss wrote, he wrote his obituary, and the first sentence, if you are reading this letter, that means I am no longer with you. Oh my goodness. But everyone said he always loved life, joy, laughter, and that was him. So I'm asking, do you think that you are growing to be a bitter old person, or do you have the joy of the Lord? In 2Chron.16, it's a tragic story. Now, we've been talking about King Asa, how he relied on the Lord. His heart was perfect toward the Lord. He didn't play. Remember, he had to check his mother or grandmother, Maacah, because she tried to set up an Asherah pole, some idol. And he was like, no, Queen Mother. In fact, you're fired. His own mom. And he had to cut down that idol. He was like, no, we're not going to have that. So he took a stand. But let me tell you, it was not until his later years in his reign where he started losing it. It says in chapter 16, in the 36th year of the reign of Asa, there was a king who came against him. And he went to another king and said, you know what? Our fathers had alliances, partnerships with each other. So you know what? Let's join forces and come against this other king. So the other king was like, yeah, cool. Okay. And that didn't please the Lord. All this time, Asa was consulting the Lord, right? He enjoyed peace and rest. But in verse 7, a seer, a prophet was like, don't you remember how the Lord delivered you from big armies and gave you victory and protected you? And then it said in verse 8, yet because thou didst not rely on the Lord this time, he is going to deliver them into thine hand. You're going to lose this battle. In verse 9, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. That means that we fully trust in the Lord. Herein thou hast done foolishly. You went on your own logic, your own mind, trying to get alliances with someone else when you didn't even pray to the Lord. Henceforth, thou shalt have wars. You're going to have issues now. And guess what? Asa was upset with the seer or the prophet. And, you know, how people say, don't shoot the messenger. Hey, it was just a message. Well, he put the messenger, the prophet, in jail, in prison. He was like, I'm not trying to hear that. And guess what happened? Judgment happened. It says in verse 12, Asa in his 39th year was diseased in his feet. And it became great. It became worse. And guess what? During this time, he didn't even seek the Lord. He got that pride from somewhere. How did that happen? That's why we have to be careful to keep connection, because the enemy, whatever crack that we have open, the enemy will come in and wreak havoc. And guess what? He did not seek the Lord, but he sought the physicians. It got worse. He died. Isn't that sad? What a legacy. We don't want that. So how do we protect ourselves from, we're going to get old, hopefully, but we don't want to become bitter. And sure enough, we don't want to backslide. In Proverbs 2, because today is November 2nd, it says, when wisdom enter into thine heart and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul. That's verse 10. Verse 11, discretion shall preserve thee. Just like, the jars that preserve fruit, right? The preservatives that will keep you and protect you. Understanding shall keep thee to deliver thee from the evil out here. Let's not grow old and grow foolish. We want to keep the wisdom of the Lord so that we can help this generation. What a tragic story, but ours do not have to end like that. We want to keep the Lord first. We want to acknowledge him, and we want to grow gracefully. So 50 could be the new 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever the age the Lord gives us, we say amen, and we're thankful. Have a wonderful evening in the Lord, staying humble and grateful and listening to the Lord at all.